So welcome everybody on the stream. Tienes bañera en casa, qué suerte. Welcome everybody. Right now on the stream live, or later if you want to watch on YouTube when I upload it, or on the VOD on Twitch. I wanted to talk today about a subject that has been plaguing me for a while since I'm like in this online left space, meaning since I've been online. It was something that usually didn't worry me so much, but here we are. Here we are with the tendencies and the infighting and all the bullshit that happens on the online spaces, right? So this is the subject that I wanted to talk about first, or mostly I would say, because we've all been on Twitter fights with people, or somebody's dropped a comment in somewhere, and you get all hooked up. Whether Reddit, like if, for fuck's sake, if you go on Reddit, that shit is, it's like nitpick paradise or hell, should I say? It's a big dumpster fire out there, and it's one thing that happens everywhere, like in all the political spectrum. Like it happens on the right as well, whether they like it or not. They like to give this appearance of unity and tactical unity, and most of the time they do that. But give them long enough, and they're gonna be at each other's throats, and you gotta love to watch it. But you don't love to watch it so much on the left, right? So I kind of wanted to talk about it because it really bothers me, and probably bothers most of you as well. This problem with leftist infighting. So mostly, tendencies. I wanted to tackle tendencies because ego and nitpicking and being a nerd about things. It happens everywhere online, whether it's like a fandom, or whether it's discussing breakfast. People are gonna be at each other's throats, right? Whether openly or secretly, because social networks they are what they are, right? They are what they are, and yeah, social networks tend to be a little bit. They thrive on confrontation, basically. They thrive on people fighting each other because it drives up the engagement, and the algorithm catches more consumer habits to sell to advertisers and other powerful people out there trying to make money out of your social interactions online, which are not the same as the social interactions offline, to be honest, but they share some similarities. Like when somebody posts the pictures of their perfect life on Instagram or Facebook, and they post this picture of the fancy meal they prepared, or the fancy travel, the fancy holiday they're taking while you're grinding at work, like yeah, or just unemployed, and you can go anywhere. Basically, we spend most of our times being miserable for the things that we don't have, for what we can't get in life, right? So I wanted to talk about how those social networks change the way tendencies are understood in politics when they happen online, and how this really doesn't happen so much offline, if you know what I'm saying. So let's talk about tendencies. You basically hear, like most prominently, this famous fight: communist versus Marxist Leninist, Maoist. uh, Say the classical, more state driven communist, the, against the classical anti-state communists out there, which is like, but if you think about it, like from a very theoretical standpoint, you go like, but you all want to achieve like a stateless, classless society, right? I mean, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's say everybody ascribes to a tendency very easily and goes a little bit overboard when talking about it online, right? Because let's be honest, these things don't happen when you're on militant spaces offline. When you're doing like work, in militant spaces, people can nitpick, but they can barter a little bit, like but it's not a big deal. You can see organizations doing work on the ground, and you can see people who are from all kinds of walks of life and political tendencies. And most people, not ascribe to any one tendency at all, which is, I think, a case of, I don't like to call it common sense, but, some kind of life experience taking over the theoretical frameworks that people like to ascribe so much to. So, uh, let's say, when we are online, it's very easy to fall into consumerist behaviors. These platforms, they make us consumers. They reward us for behaving as consumers. So when they reward that, then you get that little, dopamine boost from a like or an engagement or retweet or anything. When somebody, gives you props for something, you get a little bit of a dopamine burst and get a little bit of pleasure there. And it's very easy to get hooked up, and they count on that. It's by design, right? So they make you engage more and more and more and get like a doom scrolling and whatnot, on those applications. You keep scrolling on Twitter or Facebook, up until there's nothing left there. Or you go pick up a fight on Reddit or Twitter, which is very prone for fighting because you have like a character limit, and you gotta be quippy, and you get a lot of rewards. You get a lot of likes when you dunk on someone. You don't get a lot of likes when you say something that is reasonable and controversial, and when you show solidarity to other people. You don't see as many likes as when you say something edgy and you say something that is basically rewarded by these platforms. Edgy stuff, confrontational stuff, hype, and drama. They love drama. And people love drama as well, and it's so easy. It's not intentional. It's not like people go like, oh, no, I like swimming, I like sports, and I like drama. Drama is one of my favorite things. It doesn't work like that. Drama is ingrained in our culture. We need to, in our different cultures, because they're different, but they're all colonized by this consumerist, this we can call the neoliberal framework, neoliberal colonization of the minds. And it's very, it's very common, should I say, and that doesn't make it right, for it to be very common, it doesn't make it right. So in a way, in our consumerist minds, when we are, young and inexperienced, and we ascribe, we're used to behave like a fandom. I like Star Trek, but I like Star Wars, and then there goes the fight. Some people like Star Trek, and some people like Star Wars, and there's some other guys there doing Battlestar Galactica, and it's like nobody cares about you, but we like it. Fuck you, It's a very it's a very difficult thing to process, if you know what I'm saying. Like those behaviors are ingrained in our indoctrination as consumerists. We ascribe to brand loyalty. Brand loyalty is it's basic, it's a marketing strategy, to make you be identified with a brand or a lifestyle. And when you get into politics at the beginning, you get like, oh man, there's anarchism or anarcho-possadism, and it's awesome because it's got UFOs and dolphins and shit, Oh, but no, I'm an anarcho-primitivist, and I like it because we're gonna go to the jungle and go to the forest and live free from all of this technology that I'm so willingly participating on right now. And I'm a communist, and I love the Soviet Union and the aesthetics, and where everybody's gonna get the wall, everybody's gonna be shot, and we're gonna be in power, and we're gonna be strong, and we're gonna do. It's very easy for the young and enthusiastic mind to get on board with those brands, to behave as if tendencies were brands. So it's very easy that those brand affiliations become fights online, which benefit in turn to the social networks and the algorithm of different algorithms that these social networks have to identify our trends as consumers. We are the product for them, right? So the more we engage in those platforms, the more benefit that these people get, right? So considering this, what can we do about it? And I would say, we should figure out what a tendency is anyway. And tendencies, the word itself says like it's a tendency. It's an inclination. It's a certain affinity. It's not a loyalty to a certain brand / lifestyle / product. Tendencies in politics are very loose sets of ideas that people consider they're useful. So when people have tendencies or ascribe to tendencies, it's not a subscription that ensures absolute loyalty, but it's more of a take it as you go. So people who are loosely anarchists, they're gonna be critical with anarchist ideas too, and in the application, and they're gonna try not to go overboard with the anarchist framework doesn't even say like a state bad, so any form of state bad always all the time. That would go against the critical thinking that the anarchist thinking encourages in a way. And yeah, historically, there's these people have always tried to overthrow the state. But if you see historically the types of state that these people were trying to overthrow, but of course they had to overthrow those states. Of course they did. And you can say that in hindsight, in history, say for example, that the Soviet Revolution, many anarchists tried to sabotage it and stop the state apparatus to grow and develop so big and so powerful. And in a way, in hindsight, it's very easy to say, that was, a mistake or whatever, because then the Soviet Union functioned mostly at the start very efficiently to make the country grow from an agricultural economy that was really bad, up into the superpower that they ended up being, that went to decadence very fast because of the revisionism and so on. You can go very deep into that. I'm not gonna, because I don't feel authorized to go that deep. But there's a lot of people who can tell you a lot of stuff about it. The thing is, these people were attacking the state because they had probably beefs with the state. And they may be wrong, but they were trying to do something according to their reality at the moment that we don't understand so well, even from the historical perspective, because there's things that we don't know. And if we don't know, we shut up. Except for me, I don't know shit. I keep talking to you, right? But what I mean to say, is that, these things, have been controversial in history. I could recall, an example that I know much better, which is the Spanish quote-unquote civil war. That was not a civil war per se, but an extermination war carried on by the fascists after a failed coup d'etat. But we could also say, that the anarchists were the victims in that situation, in a way that the front lines of the anti-fascist side of the war were split, between the regular army and the militias, which were self-organized, horizontal, and they worked like a charm. They just undersupplied. They were basically undersupplied, like everybody else was undersupplied, on those times, And what happened is they were facing, an army that was technologically superior, with very big budget from deep pockets, were funding, the fascists back then. So when this happened, instead of uniting, both the regular army and the militias, and having, the funds that eventually, years later, came from the Soviet Union, and they should be dedicated to supply the people in the front, both in the militias and the regular army. What they did, and was really bad, was dedicate those funds to fight the anarchist revolution in Catalonia and in Aragon. So there has been a lot of betrayal in history, but there were people who were responsible for that. And there were historical circumstances, and that has nothing to do with tendencies eventually. Even when, the militias were anarchists, and the Communist Party of Spain were absolutely, they were dipshits, but not because they were communists. It was because they were dipshits, and because Stalin, not because he was a communist, but because he was the leader of a nation that had to deal with political tensions that were happening around the rest of the world, made a really shitty call by, trying to force an outcome that didn't happen. Apparently, the strategy for Stalin was to put forward some kind of what we call a quote-unquote liberal democracy, the type of quote-unquote Western democracies that we see today, like you have in your country, I probably have in mine, unless you're in a country that doesn't have those, but say the US or Great Britain or Spain or Belgium or Norway or Sweden, this thing where people vote every 4 years to a bunch of bourgeois people with good connections, and pretend that has something to do with people having power, which is the etymological meaning of democracy. The Mos has the kratos, but it wasn't the point, right? It was a bourgeois democracy, etc., etc. So the plan for Stalin was to create something in those, to impose, say, something in those lines for Spain, so he could have something to bargain with the United States and the United Kingdom when and if the event, at the event of future confrontation with Nazi Germany, basically. So that was history. That was something that happened, but it happened for reasons that have absolutely nothing to do with tendencies, even when the militias were clearly in a broad spectrum of different anarchist tendencies. Broadly, again, very different every case, but and of course the big betrayal where people were shot in the back, and they were, let's say, applying those resources to shoot these people and to discipline these people instead of fighting the fascists. and that was on the Spanish Communist Party. But not because they were communists. It was because they were dipshits, basically. And because Stalin had plans that were geopolitical, that had nothing to do with the subject at hand, that they didn't know back then, but it was way more important to combat fascism. They learned the lesson, they applied it in World War II. It took more years and more learning, but that's another story. What I mean to say, is that, yeah, tendencies are out there, but tendencies are not a one and all solution type. Tendencies are broad inclinations that you have as a person and that you can organize with other people in a political fashion. That doesn't mean that a tendency is something that you have to ascribe to 100%. And even less so, that you have to defend online against other leftist comrades just to get your tendency on top in this competition of the marketplace of ideas. That's not the idea, people. I'm sorry, but that's not the idea. I hope you're agreeing with me in chat. I don't know. But it is really nonsensical to see all of this fighting, all this bickering, like right now, the world is literally burning, and people online are arguing if the state or the hierarchies or no, it's not the time. Right now, it's not the time. And it's something that I wanted to, point out very clearly. Like, you can have a tendency and be organized with some comrades that think more or less like you. And when it happens in real life, things work smoothly. I'm not a Marxist-Leninist, and in Norway I was organized with a Marxist-Leninist organization who took me with them. And we were working smoothly. We were organized, we were disciplined. It works nicely. But when I was living in Spain, I was organized with anarchist people. And we had our assemblies, and we took the decisions together. And we worked smoothly. And in anarchist spaces right now, as of today in Spain, when you're making, something like a food bank, which are being very, very necessary lately, people are not gonna ask, what tendency are you from, to work with us? The question is, when are you free to do some deliveries? And can you pick this thing up on this and bring it to this and that house? And can you work this schedule? Can you do this? Then, tendencies don't matter when you're engaged in actual activism. And tendencies shouldn't matter either when we're engaged in online activism either. So, I can work with anyone from any leftist tendency, and everyone from any leftist tendency should be able to work with each other online, on online spaces. And if they want to have a political discussion, make it privately. Talk to each other like people talking out in the street. If I wanna argue about politics with you out in the street, I'm not gonna grab 100 other people and say, watch this, I'm gonna dunk on this chud, and then grab my argument and leave. That doesn't work in real life. And if you would do it like that in real life, it would be very embarrassing. So why do we tend to do the same when we're online? Why do we tend to, somebody expressing an idea on Twitter, for instance, or whatever social network, I'm not talking about Twitter specifically, right? But somebody's expressing an idea. I had this idea, and I think this is like this. And somebody comes to the replies and say, well, actually, Do we have to be reply guy to each other? I don't mind that you do it for a right winger. You know, right wingers, they want to enslave us. They don't care if we die. Those people, yeah, go to town. I don't care. Do it. Please do it if you have the skills, to come on. We got valuable people like Comrade Justin, who was dunking on right wingers, who's still, doing all the debating, but that's a performance. That's not valuable political discussion when you do it in public. And when you do it with comrades, it's even worse. And it's fine that you do it with right wingers, because right wingers are, harmful, basically. They're basically harmful. So it's fine that you oppose harmful people in performative propaganda actions against fascism or right-wing ideas that are damaging to people in the real world. But when you do it with other comrades, even when you're opposedly when you think we're all trying to get to the same place, if we want to do it through different paths, let everyone do it through their own way, as long as nobody's harmed. So, it's okay to tell a comrade, say, I have a comrade who is a Marxist Leninist and wants to make a state, a proletarian state, through a centralized party with a vanguard and everything. And say, okay, and I identify that if that happens, there will be people that would be harmed because they would have a word in the saying or a saying on what society should be, or they have special needs. Say, what about discriminated people today? What's going to happen with them when this thing happens? That's valid, to send them a DM, a private message, and say, yo, I see where your idea comes from, and I see a lot of value in your idea, but what's going to happen with these people? Do we have a system in place to guarantee that these people are not harmed? But you do it privately. If you do it in public, you're making a performance. You're showing your feathers to the world. And there's always a little bit of that. I've done it myself. I try not to do it anymore. What I try to ask myself all the time is this thing that I'm typing useful? Except when I'm venting on social networks because I'm so depressed that I feel like shit. But that's a different thing. That's absolutely personal. But when I'm going to try and put something out there that is political, I'm trying to put something out there that is useful for people to see options. That doesn't mean that somebody who has a different tendency than mine, say, has a different idea to get to the same place, to the liberation of the people, to the end of scarcity, to the end of oppression. Cool. Maybe their idea works. Maybe mine doesn't. Maybe my idea works better in certain territory and their idea works better in another territory. All of them are worth trying. That's what I mean to say. I hope you all are following, but all of those ideas that are leftist, that are carrying a progressive agenda to get rid of the systems of oppression that are in place right now in today's world, in our localities. Everything worth trying is worth trying. So if you have other comrades making different, approaches, having different approaches to end those oppressions, and saying this is going to work, and you have a different idea, both are worth trying. And both are worth trying as many times as is necessary, with all the changes that is necessary. Politics are not like a magic idea that is gonna change the world, that is gonna magically finish all the bad stuff in the world. It doesn't work like that. You gotta work your ass off. You gotta really work very hard to make it happen, to make it work, right? So what I mean to say is, the tendencies are okay. because there's a lot of theory out there. There's a lot of approaches towards, ending the suffering in the world. There have been many success cases and even failures in history, of attempts of liberating the people. And there's always something useful to learn from successes, from victories, and from failures. There's always something good to learn, but we really need to keep our eyes open and be critical of ourselves, of others, and also be humble and supportive to our comrades. I don't know. I hope I'm making sense, but I really wanted to talk about this today. I hope I'm making sense. I'm gonna get some water. I don't know. I hope I'm making sense. But I wanted to talk about that, right? About that problem with tendencies and on online people. And, most of the people online are also young, very young people with a lot of energy and not a lot of experience, but a lot of energy and a lot of value, very valuable people. It doesn't mean, that you're... Same as it doesn't mean that you're old and you don't matter anymore. It also doesn't mean that when you're young, you're not of value because you don't have experience. Everybody has their own value. And the trick in here, or let's say the helpful tip in here, is that when we're trying to achieve something together, the best way for that should be to try it together, not to try it alone, not to alienate other comrades with our smugness or pretended or performative superiority. It's good to get enthusiasm because we have this brilliant idea that you think it's a good solution, and of course, go for it. And, try and persuade some comrades to help you with it, because alone you're not going to get shit done. And be open to criticism from other comrades. But again, not performative criticism of, showing your feathers online. But actual, constructive criticism that you do privately. Like, I know what you mean, man. But not dunking on your comrades. People gotta dunk on fascists, on right-wingers, on people who are harmful to us. But people, our people cannot be dunking on our people for points, for drama, for clicks. That is very destructive, I would say. That is very, very destructive, very harmful to our movement and to the people who are suffering right now, to the people who have been suffering all of these centuries even. It is very offensive, Then somebody comes and shits on a past revolutionary movement because it's not from their tendency. That's not a good way to approach politics, at least from a leftist perspective. If you go, if you're a right winger, you can be shitty and an edgelord and be like, I'm so edgy, because they're all Dunning-Kruger all the way, Dunning-Kruger effect. They're smug, they're confident, because that's what capitalism has taught these people. That you're confident and you can sell the shit, right? You can sell the products and conspiracies. It doesn't work like that with people who are trying to build something better, who are trying to improve people's lives, which is what we at the left are doing. We're trying to end this endless grind to make some bastards richer while harming thousands and millions of others. So, if you gotta argue privately with good faith, with your open hand saying, comrade, I'm here. You may have this or that wrong. You may have missed the mark on this, or maybe we can do this better. But don't go dunking on your comrades. That's not the way it goes. That's that's very good, if you get like a very performative, very aesthetic leftist swagger going on, and but you're actually a right winger trying to act as an agent provocateur and trying to disrupt leftist movements around the world. Then you're doing a good job because you're showing your feathers out there and being so smug and so edgy. But if we want to fix what's wrong in the world today, we better catch up. We better do it the right way. We better do it the correct way. We better get a shit together. And well, that's what I wanted to say about tendencies.